The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Go to PoundDiscGolf.com to learn more about their innovative design and when you can get your hands on their next custom drop. And by Skybreed Discs, a top online disc retailer with all of the modern amenities. Pictures of every disc on the website, box shipping for every disc so nothing gets messed up in transit, very low flat rate shipping with free shipping over $50 orders. If you use code WORLDS21, you'll get 10% off of your order, and they're a preferred partner of Ledgestone and the Great Lakes Open. They've got a ton of inventory. Go check it out, skybreeddiscs.com. Hello and welcome to a live edition of the Upshot podcast. We are just off the 18th green at the Mulligans Golf Course. We're getting into golden hour here in Ogden, Utah. Absolutely beautiful with the mountains in the background. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, joined in person for the first time by Josh Mansfield. Josh, you just made it down this afternoon. How are you?
I'm thrilled to be here, Charlie. It was fun watching the last bit of the MPO round live and getting to talk to some of the players, and we've got some great bits for you guys.
Well, we've got a ton to get to. I mean, let's just take a quick look at the leaderboard before we get into anything else. So we're through 3 rounds here at the Pro World Championships. In MPO, Calvin Heinberg has a 1-stroke lead, so he did enough today to get the solo lead. He's 1 shot ahead of Nate Sexton, who shot another 10 under round out here at Mulligans. Emerson Keith is in 3rd place at 23 under. That's 3 shots back. And then you have Ezra Aderhold, Mason Ford, and Kevin Jones at 22 under, 4 strokes behind. Over in FPO, well, things got very interesting today. Paige Pierce's lead, it's gone. It's a tie at the top with Katrina Allen and Paige Pierce. After Paige, from hole 11 onwards, did not card a birdie, carded 4 bogeys and a double bogey on 18, including an out-of-bounds stroke and a 3-putt. So, wow, things have changed in a hurry. And we are glad to have you with us. If you're listening in the audience here on Riverside, you will have the opportunity a little bit later on to request to join the show. We're going to take some live call-ins, and we look forward to having you join us. But first, Valarie Jenkins joins us here to talk a little bit about this FPO round from today. Val, we've been watching the broadcast together for these first 3 days, and, you know, when Paige Pierce got a birdie on hole 10, it looked like she was ready to just separate, and it didn't happen. What happened to Paige Pierce?
Man, I don't know, Charlie. I would have to say, you know, the things that we've seen out of Paige, I mean, she is so incredibly passionate about what she's doing out there on the course, but we can't look aside from the pressure that she's put on herself. I mean, she is the #1 ranked woman in the world. I mean, she's had so many times to shine. I mean, the ESPN, she's been on SportsCenter. She's had the coverage of her. She's got a documentary coming out here in hopefully soon in the next couple of months. There's a lot going on with Paige Pierce, and what it would mean to her to have 6 world titles on her name would mean and solidify that she is the greatest player of all time. So that is an immense pressure that she's putting on herself. And I think that is a little bit to what is kind of holding her back from just playing that comfortable, aggressive, but very accurate type of golf. But she has been playing great. And even though she didn't have an incredible round today, she fought back when she needed to. She's still in there. And yeah, she could have shot amazing, but she struggled, and she's still in a tie for the lead.
I mean, that pressure is not going to change tomorrow. And in fact, I'd say if anything, it's just going to amplify. Do you expect Paige to kind of begin to manage that a little bit better? Or do we think we're going to continue to see the struggles going into the fort tomorrow?
Well, I think it helps that she hasn't done flawless. She's had to work for it. And I think it helps that in today's round, we're only 3 rounds in, 2 rounds to play. I think it's a little bit of a practice leading up. As you're saying, the pressure is going to build. The crowds are going to build, and it's going, the holes are going to eventually run out. And so I expect to see her dial that in a little bit more, maybe not be as frustrated, hopefully a little bit more focused.
Valarie Jenkins, a 4-time world champion and Hall of Famer, with us here on the Upshot. And on the other side of the coin, Katrina Allen I mean, look, it was a struggle for all of the players at the top of the leaderboard today. There was only one under par round from the entire FPO division. So shout out to Sai Ananda, who almost played her way onto the lead card. She's one shot off that. Haley King at 1 under, the last person on the lead card for tomorrow. Ananda is at even par. But Katrina Allen hit some big putts when she really needed them, and, you know, just continues to fight, and now finds herself in a position where you got 2 rounds to go, and you're tied, and you're coming back out to Mulligan's, where she really looked fantastic yesterday.
Yeah, this course suits Katrina's skill set so well. She always plays great on golf courses, but today, out in the woods, I think she played really well. You mentioned big putts when it mattered, and she hit the big putts at the very end. She had so many opportunities. I remember at one point, I think we were only 8 holes in, and she had 6 opportunities at C2 putts. And so she was falling short. She actually, in her post-round interview, mentioned the weather might have had something to do with her putts hyzering out early. I'm not sure I quite believe it, but...
We're going to get the meteorologist in here to let us know about that one.
Yeah, Terry Miller said, I'm no scientist. I'm not sure how that all works out. But Katrina was there. She had so many opportunities. And, I mean, imagine if she were to sink a few more of those putts. How would that have boosted her confidence mid-round when she kind of felt flat from... I mean, she birdied the first 2 holes, and then it was over par until she kind of cleaned it up in the last few. So she really hung in there, but I do expect a battle to happen out here at Mulligan's tomorrow.
Katrina went 0 for 11 from Circle 2, but you gotta give it to her. She misses the Circle 2 putt on 18. It almost goes out of bounds on the backside of the green, and she steps up to a long Circle's edge putt and buries it in a spot where that, you know, putting some pressure on Pierce, who then proceeded to 3-putt. So very exciting stuff. I mean, it was a grinder of a round for the entire field. Now, the other question here, obviously, Allen and Pierce at the top are going to be the likely candidates to maybe separate at Mulligan's, but Lisa Fakis, only 2 shots back. She's been there the whole week. Can she keep up tomorrow when we come back to the golf course?
I absolutely think so. I mean, Lisa had the best round of anybody. I think it was one stroke shy of the best round. She shot a 7 under clean golf, the only person to walk away bogey free out here at Mulligan's. So I expect Lisa to play similar. She doesn't have the distance like Paige or Katrina, so she's not going to have as many opportunities for birdie. So when she does come out here, she has to play perfect to keep up with those two, who I'm expecting to see go far under par.
Haley King, the last player on the lead card. I mean, it's really been a struggle for King. I mean, some great shots mixed in with some real misses off the tee. A painful double OB on 18, takes the double bogey and drops her down. She's still within 6 strokes. It feels like if she can just line it up a little bit, and she'll be much more comfortable, I think, at Mulligan's, there's still potential that she could make a run.
That's for sure. Haley King, potential is the perfect word to describe her. She has so many opportunities. She is so talented. There's just something that's slightly holding her back. And I don't know if it's a little bit of lack of confidence in her game, but she is right there all the time. There's just something always holding her back and just keeping her off the win. But at this point, I mean, she hasn't had a ton of world championships. She hasn't had that much experience on the stage like this, but she took down the Tour Championships last year. She has been able to win. It's becoming a little bit spaced out at this time, but the potential can happen. We're going back to the 4 on the final day, and we see anything can happen out there.
We saw it today. Anything really could happen. Well, Valarie Jenkins, thank you for joining us here on the Upshot, and looking forward to being back in the booth with you tomorrow.
My pleasure. See you tomorrow.
So there you go, Josh. Crazy round in FPO. really just a slog, to be honest. I mean, there were long stretches, big backups, and players could not make a putt. They could not make a putt. There were almost no circle 2 putts made out there. Katrina Allen, we already mentioned, went 1 for 11, 0 for 11. Paige Pierce went 0 for 5. Lisa Fakis went 0 for 5. Haley King, well, she got 1. It was 1 of 10. So there were a lot of opportunities out there because it was difficult to get all the way up to the green. Players couldn't knock them down. Lots of metal, but not a lot of chains.
And I think what's noteworthy is that this, if you had said coming into this show, not knowing scores, that the top 4, including Katrina Allen, didn't make a circle 2 putt, you would say Katrina Allen must be miles back then. She relies on a high circle 2 putt percentage in order to stay up with the field usually. But we've said it time and time again, if Katrina Allen turns up the circle 1 putt, then she's going to always be in contention. Look out. And that's what she did. She putted well this weekend, or today, and even without the circle 2 putts, she was making it happen to the point that she's now tied for the lead.
All right, well, let's turn our attention over to MPO. And, this Mulligan's course is fascinating. I mean, it's a lot of, you have the pinpoint tee shot, and then you got to make the putt. And we saw players making the putt. We saw players missing the putt. Emerson Keith at one point was rip-roaring hot. He got 5 of the first 6, took a bogey on 7 to slow him down, and had a brutal spit out that seemed to cool him off. I mean, it just absolutely should not have spit out. I think it was hole 10, and had a long stretch where he didn't get a birdie, but picked up a big one on 17. That puts him 3 shots back of Calvin Heinberg. Josh, I know you got the chance to walk the course for most of the back half of the back 9 for the lead card, and you got a chance to catch up with Emerson Keith. So let's hear now from Emerson Keith after his round. He shot 5 under today, not quite as good as we saw in round 1. Here's Emerson.
So Emerson, how do you feel about your performance today?
I came out firing. I was doing really good, and then I had an unfortunate spit out on hole 7 or 8, and it kind of killed my confidence, and I'm pretty disappointed that I let it kill my confidence because it lasted a long time, and then when I finally got it back, it was a little bit too late, and the wind was picking up, so it was pretty difficult.
So on hole 17, you have what, a 45-foot, 50-foot putt?
Somewhere in that range, yeah.
Looking at the water behind you, what's going through your head after having 2 spit-outs in this round that were pretty brutal?
I literally thought to myself, world champions wouldn't lay this up. So I ran it, and I made it, and it felt really good.
Wow.
It was a heck of a putt. So on the show, we've been calling you Emerson World's Whisperer Keith. It seems like you get hot at the right time. What is it about Worlds that brings out the best in you?
I think it's just my sports background. When the biggest games come along, playoffs and stuff like that, you just find your game, and that's what I do with Worlds.
So you're sitting in 3rd right now. Do you have a goal for what you want to shoot at the 4 tomorrow? How are you feeling going into it?
I want to shoot better than everybody else.
Sounds great. Thanks, Emerson.
Well, there you go, Emerson Keith. I mean, he says it himself, lost confidence a little bit, but, is in a great position. And we talked on the show yesterday, Calvin Heinberg still should be seen as a favorite. Now he has a 1-stroke lead. I don't think anything changes there, but it still feels like it could really be anyone's game if you're within 5 strokes.
I completely agree with you. I think especially going into 2 rounds at the Fort, we saw a lot of people move a lot yesterday at the Fort, and I think that's something we should probably expect again. I think you can have a cool off really quick. You can have those guys at the top who can have real bad rounds. Like you said, I think within 5 strokes, that's probably the number to look at right now. Anyone sitting at up in that mark is going to have the ability to challenge. Calvin Heinberg's going to have to keep playing excellent if he wants to hold on to that lead.
Nate Sexton had another very nice round today, 10 under. That was 1 off the hot round. Anthony Barella shooting the best round of the week here at Mulligan's, 11 under. Had a 7-hole birdie streak after a bogey on hole 7. And, man, just dialed in today. You think about what could have been with Anthony Barella shooting a little bit better earlier in this tournament. I mean, still certainly up there in the mix. He's in 9th place, tied for 9th, 6 shots back. And so, yeah, Nate Sexton, very consistent. He said after the round that he feels like the course distance is set up really well for him, and I think, it's really just going to come down to who can manage the woods at this point. Kind of interesting to see the back-to-back rounds for MPO at the Fort, whereas you get the alternating the whole week for FPO. At the end of the day, they're playing the same courses the same number of times, but it does feel different to see two at the Fort.
Absolutely, and I think part of the reason why is because the women who throw far still look at this Mulligans round and say, wherever they're sitting after round 3 isn't a huge crisis. They still have a round at each course. And so those who rely on it in the FPO on their distance really don't have to worry right now because they're going to be able to take advantage of that. However, on the MPO side, if the Mulligans was your game, if that distance, the golf course, the wide open shots was really where you felt comfortable and you're not, I think even like Anthony Barella, for example, is at that 20 under mark within 5 strokes of Calvin Heinberg. I don't think Anthony Barella is going to be able to contest though, just because I think Mulligans was his chance to get up to that lead point, and he didn't quite get there, and we're going to watch him slip during the Fort. So,
well, we got a call in, so let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can get Bobby in here. Bobby, you're with us on the Upshot. You know what? You may need to call in from not a tablet. I think you're on a tablet. There's an iPhone app and there's the browser option. So call us back. We saw you just for a second, but it can be a little bit fussy, Riverside. It likes the Chrome browser and the iOS app. So please call in. You can ask a question and we'll try to bring you into the show and give that a shot. We did see your question, Bobby, so if you can't get connected, we'll answer that in a bit, but we'd love to have you join us and ask your question live. So continuing in MPO here, there's some interesting names up at the top that we haven't talked about much this week. Plenty of conversation about Heinberg, Sexton, Emerson Keith. But look at this logjam at 22 under, tied for 4th. Kevin Jones, who we heard from yesterday on the Upshot. Ezra Aderholt, playing his best disc golf in quite a while. And Mason Ford. So Mason Ford, another Texan, and he had some thoughts on that. Let's hear from Mason Ford. Josh caught up with him after his round. He shot a 7 under today, and again, 4 shots back of Heinberg.
So Mason, how do you feel about your round today out at your Mulligans?
I felt pretty good. I left myself a circle's edge putt up the hill on hole 1 today and kind of chained out left side, but I felt really confident about it, and I know releasing the putt, how confident it felt, that I knew I was going to have a good putting day. I knew it was just a matter of fact of throwing the disc well off the tee, staying out of the bunkers, staying out of the water. It's always a good round when you don't throw a disc in the water out at Mulligans. I felt pretty good. I felt confident.
Good. So we've talked about you a little bit on the show, but I know some of our listeners, maybe surprised at where you're at, being frank. What about your goals? What did you have a goal as coming in here to Worlds?
Well, I knew coming in and playing the Utah Open, we've been here for, about 2 weeks now. Utah Open, mixed world doubles. So this is our 3rd week in a row playing on these courses. And they set up the same as Texas golf. Texas golf, you have your open, windy, wooded, tight technical shots. So I felt really good. And me and Emerson, I feel like, are used to playing those Texas courses, and I guess it shows here,
Yeah. No, the Texas boys are definitely representing.
For sure.
Do you have a goal for tomorrow's round at the Fort for moving day? What are you hoping to shoot?
I feel like if I can go and put down another 6 to 8 down, I feel like that could make lead card. That course is so hard to score on. If you're not giving yourself putts, it gets frustrating, and if you let your frustration get the best of you, it's quick to go over par.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Mason.
So there we are from Mason Ford, and we're going to call in another opportunity here. Scott, see if you can get us into the broadcast here. Scott, hi, can you hear us? Hello, Scott. You're live on the Upshot. Well, Josh was out on the course. I'll let him take this one first.
It's a little breezy, but not in a way that it's exceptionally windy, but it feels a little gusty. I wonder, if Paul hasn't just been playing his best game yet. The lack of confidence combined with a little bit of a wind. We saw in hole 18, Paul was not far away, and his putt he didn't look comfortable. I was standing there at the 18th green and watched him hit the top of the band, and it felt more like resignation to just what was a subpar putting performance today, I think. And it's, I think the elements played a part of it, but his confidence might have been down as well.
I mean, you got to look at the numbers here, and he's been okay from Circle 2, but on the week, 76% from Circle 1X. That's 98 at the tournament. I mean, it's so hard to know because he looked so fantastic with the putter just a couple weeks ago at Portland. I think maybe the elevation change causing some issues. You could imagine that. But also with putting, it's just a mercurial thing. I feel like players find the rhythm, lose the rhythm, and it can happen day to day. And, you see like Emerson Keith today. He has the spit out, and it totally blows him up. And so, why is he then unable to hit the putts? I mean, so much of it is just mentality, confidence, hitting that stroke. I think we could see Paul pick it up, but certainly, 76% below where he'd like to be. What do you think, Scott? Well, we lost Scott. He was here, and then we lost him. So thanks for the question. And, I guess the question I have is, do you think the thing that's holding back Macbeth right now from being up at the top of the leaderboard is the putting, or is it something else?
I really do think it's got to be the putting. And the problem, though, is Macbeth is taking the double bogeys that he can't take. We talked about this. And at the end of round 1, I said he's 3 strokes back because of a double bogey on hole 18 that was killer. There was the OB strokes, and that was something that may hold Paul back for the rest of the tournament. And it seems like it's proving true that Paul's having good rounds, not great rounds, and because of how close the scoring separation is, and the fact that his putter isn't dropping in the basket, Paul is very quickly going to find himself outside of where he needs to be for the rounds at the fort if he doesn't turn that putter on quick.
Well, he started so great today. He has 5 birdies in the first 6. And then goes bogey, double bogey on 7 and 8 with OB on both. And, I mean, it's just the little lapses that really does feel like the difference right now. You can't have the lapses. And if you're going to have a lapse, it needs to be a bogey and not a double bogey. Mm-hmm. It's rare to see Macbeth taking multiple double bogeys at a tournament, period. And I don't care what course, I don't care what the situation is. It's just not very common. I'm sure if we were to pull up the statistics and go through his rounds, we're not going to find a lot of tournaments, especially we're just through 3 rounds, where he's got multiple doubles. So that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, he's been very, very, basically below average, but not gaining any strokes from inside the circle. In terms of the putting department, he's well down the list in terms of strokes gained putting. Down towards like 50th at the tournament. So we'll see. I mean, you can't count him out. It's not like he's that far behind. He's at 21 under right now, 5 strokes back, but it does feel like it's difficult to make up a lot of ground at the fort if your putt is not dropping like crazy. And we see, what do you see yesterday? Emerson Keith can't miss a putt and has a great round as a result. So going to be something to keep an eye on. And, what else? When you look at this leaderboard, I mean, there's still plenty of people in the hunt. Ricky Wysocki didn't have a great day.
No, he really didn't have the best day today. Again, I think the theme has been just subpar putting numbers of what we typically see. 78% C1X from Ricky, 25% from C2. Not Ricky's best performance, I don't think. I think he was hoping definitely to shoot better. I think Mulligans is an area where you can get hot a little bit more than the fort, but especially relative when the big arms are able to use that distance a little bit. But we've talked a lot about this, Charlie, going into this tournament, and I think it's something that's bearing its teeth, and I really love about these courses. The putts are not guaranteed, even if you have a good drive. Water behind it, tough greens on the fort, sloped greens here at Mulligan's. And I think we're watching what happens to top players when they have those kind of greens constantly pressuring them. And a skill that typically is a give me means that, we're definitely not talking about smaller baskets out here, Charlie.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a really good point. We don't play a lot of courses on tour that have just this ton of pressure on every green. And if you look today at when people really seem to get thrown off their game, it was mistakes on the green. Or even just bad luck on the green. In like the case of Emerson Keith. He has the spit out, it shakes him a little bit. Paige Pierce's round went off the rails when she tried to run a circle 2 putt, hit a branch that was kind of in the way of her shot, was trying to go out around it and hyzer back, hit it, then missed the putt, from like circle's edge, and then proceeded to have a very bad rest of her back 9. Now, you can't get inside Paige Pierce's mind and know that that's the reason. We've seen players plenty of times miss putts and then bounce back and have a great hole next. But the body language was a little bit tense all day for Paige Pierce, and I think you see multiple times like mistakes compounding with additional mistakes, and that's what's so costly. Like, we maybe look at that bounce back stat that UDisc tracks, because that's one of the things that I think is going to be important the rest of the way. Can you deal with when you miss a putt, which is going to happen, and then bounce back?
Absolutely. And I think that also has to happen on the holes as well. Double bogeys are going to kill players. And I think we kind of mentioned it with Paul. It's irregular to see him get so many double bogeys. I think at the end of the weekend, if you line up who had the most double bogeys, and maybe it sounds a little bit obvious because you're like, Josh, double bogeys are a lot of strokes. Of course they're not going to be near the top. But I think double bogeys are going to be the thing that you'll see players with good scorecards who are not at the top right now because they're shooting double bogeys. Not only do you have to bounce back from hole to hole, if you throw in the water, if you throw in the woods, you need to be able to get back out and continue to play your game confidently and know when you need to take your medicine, you need to know when you can push, and you have to avoid double bogeys because you don't have the room to you don't have the holes necessary to come back from a bunch of double bogeys.
Well, one more interview clip we want to play. We got a conversation with Kevin Jones. Jones has been hanging around. He shot 9 under today. That's pretty darn good. And he's sitting 4 strokes back. A couple late bogeys kind of took him from having an amazing round to just a very good one. Got a bogey on 15 and then on 18. 18 is such an interesting hole. Actually went OB twice on 18, but able to can the putt. Oh, I'm on the wrong round. I apologize. I like on UDisc looking at the other thing. It was early bogeys for Kevin Jones today. It was late bogeys in round 1. He shot a 7 under today. So the stats I was just giving you were from round 1. So anyway, here's Kevin Jones today after his 7 under. He's 4 strokes back.
So, Kevin, how did you feel about your round today?
Today was a tough one. I feel like I battled really hard. I made a couple simple mistakes, kind of like letting some strokes get away from me, but I also threw some really good shots to make up for that, and resulted in a solid 7 under.
Coming into today's round, did you have a specific goal in mind where you wanted to be relative to the lead?
No, not at all. It's only day 3. It's still a battle against ourselves at this point. And then once that final day comes, then it'll become more one-on-one style.
How are you feeling coming moving day tomorrow?
I feel great. I feel very lucky to be in the position that I'm in. It's exactly the spot I wanted to be in coming in the event, in contention, ready to unload one at the fort.
In terms of the fort, how do you feel your game shapes up for the fort, based on last round, and as well just, do you think you have more in the tank ready to show us tomorrow?
Yeah, the fort sets up for me better than the majority of my competitors. There's a lot of really straight sidearms that I feast on, as well as a couple hyzer bombs that are real easy for me. And then you also are faced with plenty of jump putts, and that's always good too.
Yep. And do you have a score in mind tomorrow of what you're hoping to shoot before you get into final day?
No, not at all, but I'd be happy with anything better than 5, I'm sure. Yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Well, I always like to hear when players speak honestly about their strengths versus their competitors' strengths, and like having some actual insight into the kinds of shot shapes that set up well for them. I mean, I think just when you look at it from Kevin Jones' perspective, if you're going to have a lot of circle 2, edge of the circle type putts, well, we know that Kevin Jones can bury those at a clip that really no one else can match.
I think we had a question come in the chat. It looks like a similar Scott. We had another question as well, similar to the question. Well, a couple of questions asking though, how deep in the field do we have left? how many players who are still in it that can win it? I think that answer is really difficult because some of the positions that we're at right now are based off of 2 rounds at Mulligans. And Kevin Jones plays well at Mulligans. It's a course that I think he does well at as well. He has a really well-rounded game. But I think he's right when he says that Mulligans the Fort is really somewhere that he has the ability to play well on. And, Kevin Jones, he only shot 6 under in the first round at the Fort, but, he seems confident that he's going to be able to do better. And if that's the case, I really think there are certain players who are in the best position to lead based on what their skills are. And Kevin, with his forehand, circle 2 putt, if he thinks he's still got a lot left, I think Kevin Jones is going to be a force to be reckoned with 2 rounds left at the Fort.
Yeah, and interesting, you look at the scores from the Fort for players up at the top. Nate Sexton only shot 5 under. Now, he did have a double bogey. But, really good scores from Emerson Keith, who we talked about yesterday having almost unsustainable success from circle 2, which we did see him cool off today. Calvin Heinberg shot a 9 under. That was one of the best rounds of the day. Ezra Aderhold shot an 8 under with a bogey. So don't sleep on Ezra Aderhold. I mean, we could end up in a situation if he shoots like that again. He could be up there. Obviously, he's already on the lead card. Could he push higher? Now the question: how deep can you go and still think you're seeing somebody that could win? In my mind, you got to be within 6 strokes. So that goes 10 deep. All the names we've talked about, plus Ricky Wysocki and Anthony Barella at 20 under. Both of those guys did not shoot great at the Fort. I think Ricky can really pick it up. And he's going to have to. I mean, he's going to have to shoot much better than his 5 under in the first round there. Anthony Barella, I'm not sure that course really sets up to his style very well compared to that to Mulligan's. He shot only a 2 under. I would expect to see him fall down the leaderboard. But, you got to give him a shot. You got to consider it a possibility. So in my mind, it goes down to players who are at 20 under or better. What do you think, Josh?
I think I agree with you. I mean, I'm just looking at Chris Dickerson's numbers, for example, and those Chris Dickerson fans, bogey-free 9 under round at the Fort, and they might tell me, well, come on, Chris in the woods, like he can do it. And I say, yeah, but if he shoots 9 under again for 2 consecutive rounds, hot rounds, by the way, 9 under is exceptional with no bogeys, then he's sitting at, at that point, 37?
37.
That's 11 strokes ahead of where Calvin is right now. That means Calvin, who shot 9 under as well, only shoots a 5 and a 6. It just doesn't seem likely. I think 19 under, 7 strokes back from the lead is too far back right now, unless Chris Dickerson decides he's going to pull a Macbeth and go 18 under.
Look, I tell you what, you look at his scorecard, and he left some easy birdies on the board on the first 2 holes. He had a bunch of holes where he didn't pick up the birdie and, had a couple missed circle 1 putts. I think he can shoot better than 9. I think he could shoot 11 or 12. Is it going to be enough? Well, it's hard to say, You'd certainly like to see him have an extra stroke or 2 already in the can. So anyway, that's my thoughts there. If we look at FPO, in my mind, it's a 4-horse race at this point. I think Krista Tatar, unfortunately, didn't do enough, today, falling back pretty big time. And you look at her last 5 holes, she takes a triple bogey, a bogey, and a double bogey. No birdies in that stretch. And, that's, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strokes. If she gets all those back and just takes pars, she's sitting at 5 under and she's tied for 3rd. But, that's what can happen out there. And I think she's probably out of it at this point. In my mind, Sai Ananda shot a 3 under today. With all due respect to Ananda, I don't really expect to see her, push up towards the top. In my mind, this is a 4-horse race. Maybe Haley King's got a shot. Maybe. She has to come out firing tomorrow on Mulligan's. Really, realistically, it's Alan Pierce or Fakis.
I agree. And the only reason I think Haley has a shot is because there aren't quite as many players at the top like there are in MPO. The fact there's only 3 of them means that they all could have rough rounds, struggle tomorrow, depending on what the conditions look like especially, and Haley King could just go on a complete tear. But barring a catastrophic failure and disaster from Alan Pierce and Fakis, I think Haley could push for a podium. I think one of those 3 having a bad round is a very real possibility. All 3 of them, doesn't seem likely to me. I think that, to be honest, if we're talking about who's going to finish in first, I really think we're down to three people in the FPO side.
Well, it's going to be a fun one to watch tomorrow. The men play the Fort, the women play Mulligans, and then, of course, both will play the Fort on the final day. And let's talk about this. How much drama have we seen on 18? Okay, 18 at the Fort. You've got that keyhole OB lining both sides. You've got the trees with the water, so you got the water carry, and you can go into the OB there. You can go into the OB long, like we saw from Paige Pierce, and it's very, very easy to go OB as you approach the basket. The pressure, and how epic is it going to be to see fans packed into those bleachers? And the players are going to see the fans and hear the fans as they throw their tee shots. It is very realistic in my mind that the tournament could come down to shots on 18 because we've already seen multiple double bogeys on that hole, which means that, if it's a 3-shot lead, you are not safe. You are not safe. And I cannot wait to see it all play out over the next 2 days.
What I love about both 18s, because we still have mulligans, but what I really love about the Forts 18, laying up is not easy. It's not a case of aggressive or par. It's very much a case where you can lay up and still go OB on your third shot, which would be catastrophic coming down the stretch. I think every course needs to have a hole 18 that can just ruin a player's tournament because it makes it great for the fans. I'm excited for hole 18 on Saturday.
And it's just fun. It's a fun hole. It has a good forehand shot shape. Mm-hmm. It's not just, you get the 16 island hole that's playing decently easy, and that's not like 17 at USDGC. But it's not, we don't just get another island hole as kind of the iconic hole. It's actually 18 that's the iconic hole. And a lot of courses don't really do that. I think this could be really special because I think we're going to have a bunch of players in the mix come Saturday. Anyway, more to come. We're going to be back with you, of course, here on the Upshot tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're also going to record a subscriber bonus segment tomorrow as we get ready for the final round, so stay tuned for that. And please consider becoming a subscriber, discgolf.ultworld.com/subscribe. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you tomorrow here on The Upshot.